Good evening, Canada and the rest of the world. Live from Bauhaus Studios in beautiful downtown Port Credit, it's the Tom and Rick Show for Wednesday, October 21st. On tonight's show, musician, producer, and inventor Alec Fraser Jr., musician, entertainer, and microbiologist Laura Thomas. Joining us for Eating Port Credit tonight from El Jefe, Chef Daniel. Also tonight, Cooking with Carson, and a very special performance by Rickford Van Dyke. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here are your hosts, Tom Barlow and Rickford Van Dyke.
Good afternoon and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Tom and Rick Show. Rick, a lot of stuff has happened this week, including the highlight of the week was the fundraiser for Phil Naro. We discussed last week there was a GoFundMe page for Phil. Phil Naro is one of the best singers in the country.
Yeah, we'll put it down there for you people to go to it as well.
He is a fantastic human, and $7,000 was raised for him at a show put on by Mike Bacon, friend of the show, and of course Maureen from Shore. Yep. They made the entire back patio area a great safe,
really tight venue. Community came together.
Yes,
all of the musicians involved, and it made what Port Credit is. It is a special place, and it's a special place for musicians too.
Yeah, and the community really stepped up. I'd like to thank as many people as we could. I'm sure we missed someone, but I'd like to thank Tyler Urema. He played, and he's obviously a fantastic musician. He's also friends with Nick Nurse, coach of the world champion Toronto Raptors, and Tyler reached out, and Nick Nurse attended the show and auctioned off a couple of signed T-shirts and a signed book, and right there, thousands of dollars were raised. So thanks to those guys. The musicians who performed and the crew that worked the show included Kevin Reed, Stan Mychek, Enzo Lapadula, Susie McNeil, Carson Freeman, Kristen Prince, Sil Simone, Les Weller, Mark Hughes, Sarah Clinton, Maureen O'Neill, of course Mike Bacon, and in a beautiful tribute to their dad, James and John Naro.
Nice kids, great kids.
Great, and played great.
Yes.
Also, one little anecdote about how cool a vibe that was at the end of the show, Maureen had hired a door person just to keep everything COVID safe.
Yep.
And the door person didn't know Phil.
No, he doesn't know what was happening at all.
He was just kind of dropped in to be the doorman. And at the end of his shift, Maureen went to pay him, and he said, "No, donate my pay. This is a beautiful thing, and I'm happy to be a part of it." So a very beautiful fundraiser. And as Rickford pointed out, you can still go to the GoFundMe page and donate if you'd like to donate. Speaking of live music, Rick, what is happening in the community?
Thursday at the Shore, it's going to be Tom with Tom Lewis, 6:30 to 10. I might show up, well, weather depending, we'll see, And Friday, it's Parkside Drive, Parkside Duo, which is, Meg and Dave. I love those guys.
They're really great.
They're awesome, 6:30 to 10. And the Grady Brothers are on Saturday. I think it's 6:30 to 10 as well.
Also great, yeah.
And Tim at Timothy's, he's doing Dave Murphy Friday 6 to 9. He has a back tent there that's all heated, and it's spacious enough,
Dave Murphy, also been on the show.
And so has Tony Pagula, who's always great.
Can't
and he's
miss
from
with
5 to 8 on Saturday. Now for Spice, just go and check his socials and see what he's doing. He's probably going to have, if we know Spice, he's going to try to have some kind of musician out there. Right. He's a big supporter.
He really is. Folks, very exciting show for you, and we will be right back. Welcome back, my friends. We are here with a friend of mine, I would say one of my longest time musical collaborators. Her name is Laura Thomas, and we started making music together 30 years ago. I believe 30 years ago.
Wow. I think so.
Wow. At the Fox and Fiddle.
Yes.
Where we worked at the same jam night, the David Hines inspired jam night. Yeah. And very excited to have Laura here for multiple reasons. One is she's a fantastic musician who has kept very busy all those 30 years, but also she is an industrial microbiology technologist, which means she knows a lot about invisible things that make us very sick. And in this time, has there ever been an era where your credentials as a industrial microbiology technologist have ever been so relevant?
Yeah, I sure am using them every day now.
Yeah.
Now, Laura, before we get into COVID and science and all of that. Can you catch us up on what you've been doing since the 80s when I first started playing with
Since the 80s. Well, I've made my living mostly full-time for the last many years. I've played many years with David Hines, and we ran jam nights mostly for the Fox and Fiddle and around Toronto. So in Toronto, I'm known as the Bongo Lady, even years later.
Right.
And then I became a mother, and I had to rework how to play music. And so I became a children's entertainer, and I was a choir director for children. But I've always still played rock and roll and clubs. And so actually I play with David's brother, Michael Hines.
Right.
We have a trio, and we still play to this day. We did until February.
And this is your daughter's
March.
artwork right here.
Yes.
Haley
Yes.
Ress is a painter.
That's
Haley
right.
Ress.
So I've learned how to frame paintings, and Haley had an art show when she was 13.
Wow.
And so she started early on. So, and my husband is also a musician, so it's been an interesting ride.
Right.
And
A family of artists.
That's great.
yeah, so we don't have a conventional life. We've traveled quite a bit so that we could remain, stay together as a family.
Right.
I've played, and I donate, when we travel, I donate shows like in Berlin or Branson, Missouri. So if we're traveling with Joe's show, then I become the mom, but I always play music. So I have an experience with the community,
Right.
with the families and the children, and so I always play music.
What a great
no
way
matter
to
what
travel
happens.
and see the world is sort of giving back to the communities that you're going into.
It's pretty exciting, really.
Now, and what's been up? We heard you just sort of warming up there. What have you been doing in terms of writing, in terms of creating your own music?
Right. So Joe is a Jerry Lee Lewis impersonator. He's a piano player, among other things. But we have many instruments in our house. We're both multi-instrumentalists. And although I always played piano as a writing tool, I really didn't know how to play blues or rock or boogie woogie. So 3 years ago or so, Joe started to teach me how to play boogie woogie. And it really gave my piano playing great balls.
Boost. Learning other styles.
Yeah, and as an older musician, like I always thought that I would stop playing because I was getting too old to play in a bar, or too old to be a rock and roller, or I like all different kinds of music. I come from classical, but I love music in general, and so being able to learn a new style has been really great for me.
Well, I mean, that sounds really great. What we're going to do now is we're going to just take a 2-second pause to get Laura hooked up with all of the details, musical details,
Audio things.
and audio things, and we will be right back with a performance by Laura Thomas.
Art.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with Laura Thomas, and she is going to play a boogie woogie piano piece.
I'm gonna boogie woogie all day. I'm gonna boogie woogie all day. 'Cause I don't care what those people say. I'm not gonna do the dishes or vacuum the rug. I'm not gonna do the dishes or vacuum the rug. Well, I just sit here with my coffee cup. Well, I'll walk the dog and I'll feed the cat and I'll get the breakfast and that'll be that, and I'll get the children off to school. But after that, the golden rule is I'm gonna boogie all day. Women, don't be blind. You can boogie anytime. I'm not gonna do the laundry or sweep the floor. I'm not gonna do the laundry or sweep the floor. 'Cause I ain't doing housework anymore. Rake the leaves or cut the grass. I'm not gonna rake the leaves or cut the grass. 'Cause I don't really give a rat's. Did you hear something? I didn't hear anything. Well, Helen had a steamboat, her steamboat had a bell. And when Helen went to heaven, the steamboat went to hello operator, please give me number 9. And if the line is busy, I'll kick you right behind the iron curtain. There was a piece of glass, and when Helen sat upon it, she heard her little ask me no more questions. I'll tell you no more lies, because that's the end of Helen and all her dirty lies. Women, 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 don't be blind. Oh, you can boogie, you can boogie, you can boogie anytime.
Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with more conversation with Laura Thomas.
I'm gonna do the laundry or sweep the floor.
That's
right.
awesome. We don't have time for that. We need to.
We're back with Laura Thomas, and you know, when the first couple of chords hit, I didn't know this was going to be a feminist manifesto, and I was like elated to hear it.
It was
what
great.
a great song and what a great vibe.
Thanks a lot.
And that's your own song?
It's my own song with a children's song in the middle of it. It's a little song that children play when they do a hand jive with each other. Okay. Helen had a steamboat, and it just kind of fit into it, so I just left it there.
I think it's fantastic. And is that something people could find? Is it something that they can purchase?
No, actually, it's not been released.
Well, there you go, folks, an exclusive.
So it started as being the Imperfect tour, the second, the third, the fourth machination of my musical career.
Right, got you. Well, we are here to talk about the first half of your professional career, which was not in music and which was in health sciences and in biology. So now the two worlds collide, because a musician is going to work or not work this month or this day based on a scientific analysis of how COVID-19 is spreading in their community. So how has your knowledge as a biologist affected how you see the landscape for musicians? Mm-hmm. Is there advice you would give to bands? I know that one of the great things Laura does for us is we had a show upstairs on the roof, and she'll send me a message. She doesn't post it on the wall, which I appreciate.
Thank you.
But she'll send me a message saying, you know, when you wiped off that microphone, the disinfectant takes 3 minutes to work.
Yeah.
And we were like sliding people through there, and we thought we were doing it right, but we just didn't know. But we had a professional helping us out there. So how has it affected you, all of this knowledge base, and what advice do you give to musicians who are out in a club playing music?
Right. So for me, one of the things as an industrial microbiologist, I'm trained in preventing people from getting sick. So cross-contamination is a huge issue for people that work in a laboratory, because when we test something, we don't want to contaminate it. We don't want to add anything into the sample. Right. So, and in industry, you clean machinery so you don't have cross-contamination. So in the laboratory, that's what I'm trained in, and in the factory. So I've worked in pharmaceutical, food, as in prevention. Right. And so in pharmaceuticals, we learn especially about disinfectant. I've been a food technologist testing food from all across Ontario. So I've personally been trained twice in my lifetime as a microbiologist, and I've also worked in industry in right from the bottom on the floor as a quality inspector, approving product to be sent out, and also in the lab to test that. And so cross-contamination is in my bones.
Is there any science behind, like, surface? Something is on a surface, you have to clean that machinery, whatever it is.
Yes.
There is something on the surface. How long does it take for that to be gone on a surface of anything? Stainless steel, anything like that?
Right. So gone, it gets a little more and more complicated depending on what you're going to use that surface for. Right. For instance, if you... I was in a microbiology class once, and the professor, just to shock everyone on the first day, wiped across the counter and licked it. And we were shocked. And then he said, it depends on what what is the purpose of that counter? Is a piece of meat going to fall on the counter? It's going to acquire bacteria. Someone's going to put it back in production. Is anybody going to eat it in the next 5 minutes, or is it going to have a problem with time and distance and temperature? So we look at all the different things that are going to happen to that. So kids lick things all the time. They don't, with COVID is a different animal.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. But for me, you don't want to be my child. You don't want to be my husband, because my family, I'm the chief advisor. So, and I've picked up the phone and phoned the coroner's office to discuss something that I see. Like, we watch television, and there are certain things that people just either they don't know or they're not paying attention. So,
and what would be an example of that?
An example of me phoning the coroner's office?
Yeah, I mean, like, this is COVID related.
Okay, I'll tell you what happened and what I did. I find it a great responsibility to teach people what I know. I am not the highest microbiologist, but I know it as a science. I know how to research something. I can tell what's not true from my own experience. But so there was an incident in a province in Ontario. It involved the police force of most of that province, and I turned on the television, and almost 80% of the police force in that province was standing beside each other, no masks, in the middle of a pandemic.
Right.
So I could just do nothing, or I could pick up the phone and just make someone aware. Maybe you don't want every police officer that you have standing next to each other, because do you want all of your... We know that COVID is extremely contagious.
I would never have thought of that. The whole police force has to quarantine for 14 days. You have no police force.
Right. Yeah. So I see things all the time that I wouldn't do.
Right.
So in contamination, you have masks, you have disinfectant. There are proper ways to use things. And I do believe in the beginning of the pandemic, the governments were a little slow to decide on masks, because I know what the reasons why they make these decisions. It was a financial decision. Is it going to slow productivity?
Economy,
It's going to affect the economy. People will be afraid. So we're going to be very sure that we make that decision. Do people know how to use a mask? Mask etiquette is very important. Sometimes you need to give someone a visual cue of what something is. If you imagine that you had your mask on, you came into contact with someone who was ill, the virus was on your mask. If it was paint and you could see it, you wouldn't touch it. You wouldn't fold it up and put it in your pocket and take it back out. You wouldn't put it on backwards.
Right.
So I see things very small. So that's hard for me to live with.
Right.
It's a concern for me. How do I put my mask down, even for me?
Right.
So
I'm sure I've done it badly.
Everyone
not right
does.
in front of you.
But really, it's all about risk.
Right.
Are you in a risky situation?
No. Now, are you playing gigs now? Are you going
I'm not
into
playing
clubs?
gigs, but I will say I've spent COVID in a very unusual and interesting way.
Right.
So I'm a mother, so I had to look after my family first.
Sure.
As musicians, and we are getting older, my family, and so we decided to move out of the city so that we could still play and live in a house. So we are one of those artistic families who can't afford to live in Toronto anymore. So we've moved farther and farther out.
Now, hypothetically, let's say you have a gig in Toronto. It's where we've gone back to phase 3, where there's indoor dining again.
Yes.
They have the plexiglass. They have all of that.
Yeah.
When you walk into a venue like that, what makes you say, okay, this is legit, I'm comfortable playing here? And what would maybe make you say, no way, this is offside. It's not safe for me. It's not safe for these people.
Right. So you want to have ventilation. You want to have reduced risk whenever you can. For me, that means if you're not eating, then put your mask on.
Right.
We talk about if it airborne or not airborne, is a definition of it. It's moving around. It can move around. So I say just reduce your risk when at all possible. Better when there's more air. You want to be cognizant of that everyone in that room is going to use the washroom. So there are reasons why they put limits on things. They are not always obvious of why you're doing it.
Right.
So if you're going to be in a safe place, nobody's going to touch your gear. You're going to have your place to play.
Yeah.
Everyone else is going to have a mask. There have been instances that I know of that you make the deal with the person you're going to play for, and then somebody decides not to do that. So it becomes the onus on you to do that, right?
To be your own sort of
Well, if
monitor.
you lead by example. You put it on, you walk around, you see these, and you're playing a gig. The patrons are seeing you do it, and if you do it, they might do it.
For sure.
Come outside, put sanitizer in your hands.
Sure.
Little things like that. Lead by example.
I think it's true. Unlike some world leaders, we even at our limited level, of being a guy in a rock band on the stage, feel a responsibility to sort of lead by example. Now, before we have to go, Laura.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of junk out there. There's all kinds of people who think that if they watch 8 hours of YouTube, they have done research and are now, industrial microbiology technologists. So if there's a single misconception out there that you would have the opportunity to say, look, it's not like that, what would that be? Or if there's several, I hate to summarize in one, but just if there's something
like some of the myths that are out there, like some of the biggest myths about the coronavirus that you
The biggest
feel.
myth is you don't need a mask. That's the biggest number one myth, that you don't need a mask.
Right.
Yes.
Another myth I would want to correct is about gloves. People think if they have gloves on, they're safe. I'm okay, it's not touching me, I have glove on. But if you imagined that the surface had COVID on it and you touched it with your glove and it was paint, the glove isn't what's keeping you safe, it's from not touching your face. So the mask is to keep everything away from you breathing it in.
Right.
So washing your hands is the best. Because
and the little hand sanitizers, they're everywhere.
so the
Just
hand
use them.
sanitizer is good, but the washing hand is better. So soap
'Cause of the
has
heat?
a water-loving part of it and a water-hating part. So the soap actually, oil of the soap connects with the oil on your skin, traps the dirt or whatever else you've got on your hand, and then you wash it away. So you want to do it for a long time because you have little crevices. Everything always wants to get into those crevices, whether it's a cutting board in your kitchen, whether it's your fingernail. So better if you can wash it off, because people are going to touch their face. If I say it like 100 times a day, don't touch your face.
I want to
don't
touch my face right now.
Right. So you want to keep the risk low.
Right.
You want to imagine that because we don't know who's sick, anybody could be sick.
Right.
So whenever you can mitigate that risk, then mitigate that risk.
Laura, thanks so
Awesome.
much for coming in and sharing your musical talent and
Thanks.
some of your scientific knowledge. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Where can people find you? Because they might want to look you up now.
Sure. So the easiest place is laurathomas.net or cousinmolly.com. I have a kind of dual
And
personality.
what about your daughter, lovely
Yeah,
artist?
where can people
yes.
find the artwork?
Haley Ress. Haley Ress.
Instagram, beautiful HR.
Ooh,
Oh.
the beautiful HR.
Yes.
Excellent.
Or you
Ladies
could always
and
find her
gentlemen,
through me.
Or find it through.
Or through Laura.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that has been Laura Thomas with both art and science, and we will be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are live at the Tom and Rick Show. Live-ish, I would say. Rick,
Yes.
A few things to announce. As you know, because we live in the world, the COVID situation in Ontario, in Southern Ontario specifically, where
Yes,
we
where
are, is becoming more and more difficult. And more difficult, not just for the restaurants and the entertainers, but for people in general.
Yeah.
So, a friend of ours, Ace Piva from Over the Bridge, who we've had on the show, a great friend of the show. He has, if you go to Over the Bridge, you search Ace on Over the Bridge, he is doing a quarantine virtual support group for people with depression, anxiety, or general feelings of being disconnected. And that is Tuesdays and Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m. So if you're feeling you need to connect with someone in that way, we'll put the link up and you can go and check that out. I've also like to mention that the Mississauga Arts Council, Mike Douglas, who's a really great soldier for artists trying to make it in this situation.
Yes.
They have an initiative called the Micro Grant Matchmaker Program. And what that does is if you are, say, in the middle of an art project, in the middle of making a film, in the middle of releasing an album, and you have some funding and you need up to $2,000 to take it to the next level, they will provide that $2,000. So you go to the application, MississaugaArtsCouncil.com, and very quickly, if you have a project with an impact on an artist's career and the public, Number 2, matching funds for a third-party sponsor, investor, artist. Number 3, entrepreneurial collaboration. And number 4, digital marketing and innovation. If that sounds somewhere in your artistic world, please go to MississaugaArtsCouncil.com and check that out. And we have news from the BIA, Rick.
Yes. Also, we'd just really like to thank Jake Pedler and all of the BIA
Yes.
for helping our show and helping our community out. It's not, he's not really helping me and Tom out. He's helping out the whole community as far as businesses go and the arts community. He's finding our friends gigs where you can get them for that whole hashtag turn left thing. We really like to put a shout out there for Jake Pedler.
And the BIA gave us a grant so we could pay some of the staff and artists who appear on the show, and it's really great for an artist who maybe hasn't had a gig in weeks to be able to come here and make a little dough by playing a song and talking about their careers.
So thank you.
Cheers to the BIA, and we will be right back. Welcome back, my friends. I'm very excited about our next guest. He is, well, he's good at all things roots music, I would say. He has produced or engineered 900 albums, including projects with Downchild, David Wilcox, Bo Diddley, and Stand By Me's creator, Benny King.
Wow.
We have with us here, he's also an inventor, and we're going to discuss that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
We have with us here today Alec Fraser Jr. Welcome, Alec. How you doing?
Hey, thanks a lot for having me on.
So, so many things to talk about because you do so many things, but I thought we'd start with what you're doing now and how your COVID career, I guess we're all in our COVID career phase now, how that's been going and what you've been up to.
Well, we've all had our jobs sort of taken away from us, right?
Yeah, sort of.
So I had two. I had, as a producer and an engineer, I had that taken away as well as being able to play 5-6 nights a week too. So what I've focused on, apart from mixing the odd record that I've been doing, because I can't really have people over to the house, indoors. So what I've been doing is I've been doing this charity broadcast that I did. I'm about to do a second one, and it's called Songs for Food and Shelter. And I put 12 artists together doing video and songs, their own songs, much like you're doing here. And then editing it and mixing it, mastering it, putting it together and putting it out for Fred Victor Center. So Fred Victor helps feed and basically they try and relocate people who are homeless.
Right.
So the money goes directly to them. I just handle the production side of things, right? And I'm getting a lot out of it. So, and I also thought too that if I'm idle and I'm alone with my thoughts, this whole pandemic's going to get a lot harder.
Yes.
Right.
So
Great point.
you guys, you're making good use of your time. Right. So I wanted to at least feel like I was doing something positive, and it's pretty rewarding. I mean, you don't make any money from it, but it's rewarding in the sense that it keeps you sort of at least somewhat sane as I can be anyway.
Right. Now, I wish we had an hour with you because I want to talk about recording with all of these people that you've worked with. But mostly right now, what I'm interested in is your most recent album, and I've heard a few songs from it. It's just such an intimate, rootsy.
So my own personal...
your own album.
Well, it's funny, like, I'm 64, whatever, about to turn 65. I think that's the order it goes in anyway. But I've never done a solo record in all the years that I've been playing, which is 50 years in the business. And I was never really focused on songwriting. As much as I liked it, it wasn't really one of my main things. But it seems that since all of this has happened, I'm having no problem writing songs. So I'm going with the flow. And I wanted to make a record that was for me, actually, rather than not trying to fit it into a market.
Right.
It would be easy for me to make a blues record because I'm fairly well known nationally for doing that. Mm-hmm. But, I thought it would be best to just make if I can only make one record, say, if this is the only one, I should make it something meaningful for myself. And if people like it, good. If they don't, well, really the people that do like it are the ones that we're always kind of interested in anyway, because you've touched them. And people that don't write it, I'm fine with that too.
Well, I love that. It seems like many musicians, and myself included, we spent a good part of our career chasing something.
Yeah.
And when you have that opportunity to stop doing that and make music that you like, when you absolutely just don't care if one single other person likes it,
it's true.
You've got one fan for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Will you play us a song from the new album?
Yeah, I can do that. This one's actually up on my website. I've finished it. I did this with Jimmy Boskill. He played mandolin on it and sang with me on it. So he's not here right now, but so I'll just do me, all right? I have my father's ashes. He told my mother to give them to me and said I'd know what to do. So I'm gonna plant me a tree. This tree will be a monument to all those good old times we spent. So I'll plant my father's ashes. Let that phoenix rise again. I have my father's guitar. He told me someday that it would be mine, so I played it by his bedside, and we sang one last time. I saw the light and jambalaya as the angels flew above his head. So I plant my father's ashes. Let that phoenix rise again. Well, now that my days are near ending, I'll hand this guitar to my child. Just plant me neath that same tree and sing them one more time. I saw the light and jambalaya as the angels fly above my head, and plant your father's ashes. Let that phoenix rise again. Let that phoenix rise again.
Nice.
Absolutely beautiful.
Cool.
What a great song. Wow, really great. And one more time, where can people find that if they want to get a hold of it? Like
If
I know
they
people
wanted
will.
to download the track, they go to alecfraserjr.com.
Right.
So it's ALECFRASER.
Yeah, we'll put a link up too.
JR.com. So I'm 2 songs away from having the record done, but I've been putting singles up as I've finished them and felt comfortable with them. So that one just went up, so it's up there.
All right, folks, you know where to find it. Now, I'd like to shift gears a little bit and talk to you about your job, not your job, your life as an inventor of musical instruments. Now, the first time, I know you as a roots blues, broadly roots musician, rock and roll musician. I've seen you play in a bunch of bands with a bunch of people, and one day I walk into a club and you're holding an upright bass with a snare drum under the and strings, and we're going to put a clip up in a second so people know what we're talking about.
Right.
And it sort of just evolved and kept evolving, and now I walk in and I hear like a 4-piece rock band, and I walk in and I see 2 guys. And it's because you're making all of this racket, this amazing racket with this instrument. How did this come about?
Well, it's my favorite thing to do because it's I guess I'm the only, the way I've developed it over time, over 15 years, is like, I'm the only person really doing this anywhere because, I basically invented it and I haven't really given it to anybody yet. I'm still waiting for a kid to come along that has the coordination and that kind of thing and the drive. A lifer, I guess you could say.
Right.
So I haven't found that yet. But there was in the 50s, there was a guy named Ernie Newton, and another guy who copied from him was Lightning Chance. Now, they were in the Grand Ole Opry, and they didn't allow drums back then. And so what Ernie did was he carpet tacked a skin onto his bass and played it with different fingers than what I do, but and had a sort of a style where he played with a brush and plucked. It's a different technique than mine, but it's very similar. Now, I didn't see that until after I'd already developed mine, but I thought, wow, that's really cool, and I learned how to do that, but I found it somewhat restricting because I wanted more power, and then my addition to the whole thing would have been that I actually use real snares in like it's not permanently attached to my bass. It's a piece that I've made, and I've added 5 drum triggers to it too, so I can have toms or anything actually, kick drum, whatever, along with the snare, and I'm using my hands too. So I'm basically doing drum fills, which is something that Ernie didn't do. But
can we just stop you for 1 second there? And Rick and I are going to watch it here. The folks at home will see it on the screen, because you got to see what he's talking about here. And here it is. This is with your duo, Fraser Daly. You guys have a few albums out?
Which one are you going to show? Is it Steve Strongman or is it Fraser Daly?
Oh, sorry, it's Steve Strongman.
Yeah, that's Steve Strongman there. I just did that the other day for the charity event.
Okay.
But that's not the piece that's going to be on there, but we shot 2, so that's one of them.
Okay, so just for the folks at home, in case you're wondering what a man playing an entire drum kit and an upright bass at the same time looks like, this is it. Wow, I mean, that is, first of all, it's not just that it's crazy to look at, because it is crazy to look at. It's musically, you close your eyes, it's not a gimmick.
No, there's percussion there.
This is great blues.
I walked into the shore and I seen him doing that, and I just stopped and went, like, usually I go in the shore and go right to the bar and get a drink, but I stopped.
Right, you made Rickford stop. There you go.
Wow. That's the most interesting thing I've ever seen, and good for you, you know. Put some percussion in there, right?
And so what I think we'll do, if it's okay with you, is we'll run that whole song at the end of the show for
I think it would be better in context too, you know, like with the actual strings being played too.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, that was just a spot where I sort of went like John Bonham or Keith Moonish, you know, so for a minute. But I appreciate you saying that. You know, I should say that, you know, like a lot of drummers have really helped me. A lot of the reaction, the best reaction has been from, confident drummers who don't feel I'm taking their job away or something. I basically come up with this in a duo format because, you know, you really miss it. You miss it in a duo. Like
I'm missing it right now. Tom does a duo, I do a trio, and it just misses something. And like, that's a great invention. Like, you know, if we can't have it, we could have this, and it's still great. You know?
Yeah, well, you know my number, call me.
You know, I just might.
Well, so I mentioned Steve Strongman and Fraser Daly. So you're doing quite a few duo things. And are there albums with those projects as well?
Well, there's 3 albums for Fraser Daly. That's pretty much been my main duo gig that I've been doing. I wasn't playing a lot with other people. Like, I'm very particular about who I'm playing with because it's physically demanding to, you know, do that. Like, you know, 6 nights a week. You know, your fingers, I've got calluses on here, they're pretty big. And, you know, it's not that I can't do it, but it's just that I just thought, well, I don't want to be wearing myself out. I mean, I'm getting older. So So I spent more time playing with Mike and I, and we didn't do very many bars. We played 2 bars in Toronto, like we sort of phased bars out quite a while ago.
Right.
Except for the Intersteer on Roncesvalles and Castro's in the Beaches, because they were really, they were lucrative gigs, and the people who were there weren't watching the
Sports.
TVs and stuff.
Right.
Yes. There was no TVs, so they're basically there for the music and having a great time.
Right.
So we kept those, and we worked mostly. We built up a really good circuit for backyards and homes, concerts and theaters and stuff like that, and that was working out really well because it sort of, we needed the bars as the catalyst at first, but once you got that, it was great. But of course, that's all gone now because of the COVID thing. But I'm sure it'll come back at some point.
Right. Well, it was such a pleasure having you. It's not often we get to say someone is a philanthropist. Is that how you say that word? Does stuff for charity. A fantastic musician, producer, engineer, writer, and an inventor of musical instruments. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Alec Fraser Jr., and we will be right back. Welcome back to the Tom and Rick Show, ladies and gentlemen. We are joined, as we are with most culinary things, the legendary Carson Freeman.
Carson Freeman.
Thanks for having me, guys. We are going to talk food, and we are going to talk eating Port Credit. And look, I'm just looking in the monitor.
I'm just looking. There's something off about you, more than usual.
It's a little more corporate.
Here, put this on, please.
There we go.
Rock and roll.
Right.
Yeah. Now you look like you're in a band.
Let's see.
I've been knighted.
There you
Perfect.
go. Oh, that looks better.
All right. Now that we have our costumes organized, we are doing a segment, as you may have noticed if you've been following us for the last few weeks, called Eating Port Credit, where we celebrate the great culinary options here in our beautiful community. And we have with us today Daniel Tesfaye. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you got it.
Daniel Tesfaye is the head chef at El Jefe, which is a really cool little Mexican restaurant in Port Credit. And welcome, Danny. How
Mexican
you doing?
beer.
I am doing fantastic. Thank you very much for having me today.
Thanks very much
thanks
for coming in to see us today. And we just want to talk to you about the restaurant and the food you do. But most interestingly, you guys have a great patio.
Yeah.
It's a big covered patio. It wasn't just covered for COVID. You guys always had this big covered patio. Do you have heaters in there too?
We have heaters as well. It was a plan for like about a year.
Oh,
now it was actually before COVID. So the fact that this instance happened, it basically made us push into it.
Right.
And the fact that we have now made it like
You were
amazing.
already ready.
Yeah.
While other people were scrambling,
We were ready before everything.
You guys were ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing. What kind of food are you making? Obviously Mexican, but what's sort of your specialty and what do people keep coming back for?
As of recently, it's our chimichanga, which is essentially a fried burrito. We fill it with our pineapple marinated chicken, refried beans, and cheese. We like to keep it simple, but still like empowering in flavor, right? That's basically everything in our Mexican culture in general, and along with everything that we do at El Jefe. Another thing is our nachos. Shockingly, it shocks me every time that we get compliments on it being like the best in town or like the best in whatever.
Because everybody has nachos, but yours are like probably wicked.
And we were talking before, we were just chatting while we were getting you set up there. There's no canned anything. There's no canned refried beans. There's no canned corn. No. You guys make everything from scratch.
We try our best. Literally, I give everything a 2-day shelf life, and that's it. But like that's how busy we are, right? We go through everything in a matter of 2 days max, and then bring it back, get everything fresh again.
Well, that's a testament to how the quality of food you're making, I would suspect. Now,
thank you very much.
Interestingly enough, you're obviously a young man, a young chef.
Yeah.
But you've had a couple of mentors who are friends of ours. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about working with great chefs like Massimo and like Tiago.
Not gonna lie, Massimo, very hard.
Very hard, as he should be, right?
But yes, he should be. He trains very like accurate, very perfected in everything.
Right.
But that's literally the type of chef I would like to be in the future, right?
We're talking about Massimo Capra, so
yeah.
from Capra's Kitchen in Clarkson, yeah.
I respect him so much. Without him and obviously a couple other chefs, I probably wouldn't be here till this day because I wanted to go on other paths. And they taught me, even when I left Capra's Kitchen, I went to Door 55 and I was trained by Port Credit's very own Tiago Pablo.
Yes, we love Tiago.
Greatest van in the city.
Yes. And with obviously having Tiago and having Chef Massimo Capra, they both taught me the confidence in my own food and to be able to create beyond me, basically.
Now, one of the things I find interesting when we were talking about what you like to do as a chef is you like to go to little hole-in-the-wall restaurants in Toronto and just try random ethnic food.
Yeah.
How does that translate into your work as a chef?
Well, for me, I feel like I get in situations where I feel like I'm the underdog. And a lot of things, it could be because I'm a young chef,
right?
Or it could just be like my mind just going crazy on myself, right? But like there are like, especially watching a bunch of Netflix shows on culinary all around the world, the main top restaurants are the hole-in-the-wall restaurants,
right?
And that's where it starts, right? I like to see beautiful restaurants like that before it like impacts the whole world.
They always get overlooked.
Legacy, you know?
Those places get overlooked by the general tourist because they are thriving, they're doing well, they don't need to do the new storefront, they don't need to switch locations and put the advertising up. But when you can walk into those and you notice that little gem that's there, it is pretty intriguing and inspiring. But I think El Jefe too, although it is a popular destination in Port Credit being the only Mexican place that came there.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is kind of a hole in the wall.
It is.
You know, respectfully saying.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Now, you were saying that you finally have a chance. You've been there a year now.
Yeah.
That you are doing specials, and that's a new thing. What can people expect if they roll into your beautiful heated patio? What's a typical or what's a special that you've done there that you get excited about?
A couple things that I would like to do on specials is I want to bring back old menu items from like 2 years back, 3 years back. I have had people tell me that they want to bring back the enchiladas, which was a hit, but wasn't enough a hit at the time.
Right.
You weren't making them. Feature. I wasn't.
Herein lies the problem. Yeah. Get Daniel on them.
As far as like our first weekend feature, which is this weekend, it's actually cooking right now as I'm speaking right now, and it's super hearty beef and potato soup.
Ooh,
it's
love
very
soups in the winter.
known.
Yes.
Very known in Mexico, in southern Mexico, and in northern as well. Corn, beans, potatoes, beef shoulder that I got.
Nice.
It's perfect obviously for this season, and obviously perfect for the restaurant.
And when will that be ready? In case we want to run
like right now.
It's gonna be ready like tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Now, one thing Daniel was talking to us about before we started taping is that your focus is not on takeaway when most of the restaurants are doing that right now.
Yeah.
So you're still kind of pumping up the patio?
Yeah. Luckily, because we have the winterized patio, people still obviously want to go out. We want to give everybody the reason to come to obviously Port Credit and also obviously come to El Jefe and enjoy the restaurant life that we had before.
Right.
Unfortunately, because of this time, you can't really do as much as you can. But we're just trying our best to bring back that experience.
Cool.
Well, I know you're busy because you got to get back to a soup, but before we let you go, a few more things.
Ton of tequila, apparently. I mean, I was waiting all this time for something for Rick to talk about. All right, you go. Tequila.
Rick's well studied the fields of tequila.
They have many tequilas, but you know, I talked to Daniel before, and I said, "Tell us about your great tequilas." He said, "I make the food, man. I don't know about the tequilas."
I don't even know. I just tequila. There's a bunch of them. I heard that. Am I right,
It
Carson?
is a tequila bar. It says right in the name.
Yeah.
So
Bam, 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 bam.
Margaritas.
Margaritas are good.
It just feels like summer when you're just saying it out loud.
Margarita.
Well, like summer when you're on the patio.
One quirky and cool thing is you told me you grew up as an athlete and liking food, and you saw a Disney movie and it made you want to be a chef. Tell us about that.
I did. It was on a Family Channel actually, and I think I was like 7 or 8.
Ow.
And I was choosing. My fields were either cooking or playing soccer, and then so I watched this movie called Million Dollar Cook-Off, and the celebrity chef that was in it was Chef Bobby Flay. Basically, the whole plot of this movie was the boy had to choose either baseball or pursuing his chef career. The only reason why he couldn't was because his dad wanted him to do baseball, but his mom wanted him to cook or do whatever he wants.
Right.
And then it really related to my situation, and obviously I didn't start cooking when I was 8. I started cooking when I was like, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12, eggs and stuff.
Wow.
I was making toast. I still am.
And then I just chose cooking. It was very hard for my family.
Right.
My family's very traditional Eritreans, which is East Africa. I don't know if you know. Yeah. And they wanted me to be engineers or a nurse or a doctor, this and that. And I literally just baked a cake for my mom once, and she was just like, okay.
One with the cake. Daniel, thanks so much for coming in. It was great to have you.
Thank you.
Please support El Jefe, support a young chef and a restaurant that is trying to make it under the most difficult circumstances possible. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back.
Shore Grilling Grotto, it's a Shore thing. Shore Grilling Grotto is Port Credit's favorite go-to restaurant. Our food is always made fresh, from our great mouth-watering steaks to our freshly made pastas to our burgers and wings. And now you can enjoy our freshly made meals right in the comfort of your home. Call us today for pickup or delivery. 905-271-9777. Shore Grilling Grotto, it's a Shore thing.
Won't somebody help me if you please? My baby is gone with the breeze. River, river, carry me far from my home to my baby. Where can she be? Well, I'm all alone. Try, I'll get in my bed and I'll lay there till the end of time, until my heart is dead. And the river will carry me far from my home to my baby. Where can she be? Oh, I'm all alone. I'm all alone. Try, I'll get in my bed and I'll lay there till the end of time, until my heart is dead. And the river will carry me far from my home Yeah, man.
Hey guys, this is Carson Freeman, Cooking with Carson. Today we are going to be making some pizza from scratch. And really, if you're making pizza, the only thing you really need to do is learn how to make the crust. 3 components to a pizza: crust, sauce, and cheese, and the rest, you can go wild, put any toppings on it. A chef friend of mine told me once that you only need 3 ingredients, 3 toppings to make a great pizza. So you got to think of those 3 that are kind of your own personal ones. Today I have some beautiful chorizo sausage, some red onions, and some artichoke hearts, some of my favorites. But just, you can put your 3 favorite toppings down below if you want on Facebook Live. Okay, so what I have in here, my stand mixer, I have some warm water that you would wash your hands with, not too hot. If it would burn your hands, it would also burn and cook the yeast and kind of ruin it. And I put in a package of the dry active yeast. Okay, this is the quick rising, and if you're using that, it's kind of neat because you don't have to proof and punch down the dough as much. And I have about 1.5 cups of warm water, some sugar, which the yeast feeds off, and it's kind of mixing there. So now, inside, I'm just gonna add some flour into my mixture. Feel free to make a mess, because this isn't your kitchen. That's what I'm telling myself here at Tom's. And what I'm doing, I'm just putting 1 scoop in here, and I'm gonna just start to get this going. It's gonna make what we call a slurry, and it's just gonna start to mix this. And I'm gonna keep adding in flour. But before I add my next scoop, I'm gonna add in some olive oil. I'm just gonna squirt it here. I have the pleasure of using this one so I don't have to kind of get a bottle in there. About 2 tablespoons of good olive oil. And as this is mixing, I'm gonna slowly add in a little bit more flour. Okay? Just until I have enough. Okay guys, the dough is ready. I got a nice dough ball in here. What I'm gonna do is add a little bit of flour to my work surface here, just so it doesn't stick. And I'm gonna put some on my hands as well, just so it doesn't stick to my fingers. And here we go. You can see this is very elastic. This is a flour called 30-30 pizza dough, okay? And what it does is it has a really nice gluten in it that's gonna make this stretch and be perfect for pizza. So right now it's kind of sticking to my hands, but the dough that's on there is coming off, okay? So I'm gonna add it back into the bowl with just a little bit of olive oil, just so that it keeps the surface nice and moist. And you can hear in the background my oven is preheated. It's getting ready to go. What I'll do here is I'll just add a damp cloth that I have over the bowl and just set it aside and let it rise. Remember, it's not gonna take very long for this dough to rise because I'm using the quick rising yeast. Hey guys, my pizza dough is ready. It's risen, and you can see that it's almost tripled in size. It's pretty huge. I'm gonna take it out of the bowl, but I'm gonna put some flour on my work surface. Once again, flour in my hands so it doesn't stick to that. And I'm just going to dump it here. You can see as I'm doing this that it's really sticking to the bowl, but those are gluten strands that you see, and those are perfect, okay? I can use this whole ball of dough to make a nice big pizza, but if you haven't made pizza dough before, what I'm gonna recommend is you cut this into 4 pieces, okay? I'll put it on my cutting board here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take each one of these balls of dough and I'm gonna roll them and I'm gonna let them proof. I'm just using the bench. With one hand, I'm kind of rolling and pushing, twisting it, getting a nice ball, okay? I can make these into pizza now, but I'm really gonna have to work with the dough and it's gonna be kind of tough. I'm gonna let it do one more rise before I make a pizza. What you might want to do too is leave your dough in the fridge overnight. What that will do is it'll give it kind of ferment the dough a little bit like a sourdough and give it a really nice flavor, a really nice aroma as you're cooking it, okay? So I'm just gonna cover these just for a little bit. They're gonna proof and expand just a little bit more and they'll be perfectly ready for our oven. Okay guys, the pizza looks ready. It's risen nicely. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll out a piece of this dough. What we want to do is we want to get these smaller discs because we can actually throw them in the air like a real pizzeria, okay? I just don't want it to stick to the fan. And I'm just gonna put it right on my pizza pan as I stretch it out. And some of it's gripping the pan too. I'm gonna push out the edges with my fingers. The joke is when something doesn't look perfect, you just call it rustic, and then for some reason it's gonna sound a little more appetizing. First thing down is our sauce. And this is a nice kind of garlic basil sauce. You can make your own. This may or may not have come from a jar. I actually bring all my ingredients to Tom's kitchen, and today I forgot some, and one of them was the sauce. And fortunately, Tom had some tomato sauce here, but I almost had to use salsa and pretend to the viewers at home that it was actually tomato sauce. I wouldn't do that. I would have done that, actually. Okay, so here we have some cheese going down. Beautiful mozzarella, freshly grated. I did a great job, as you can see. And the three ingredients, my trifecta today, is these beautiful chorizo sausages. We can't visit Portugal right now, not easily, so we'll bring them to us. Some onions, I'm just scattering them around. Beautiful red onions, or as I call them, purple onions, because that's what they are. They're purple onions, quit calling them red. Some pickled artichoke. Behind me, my oven is at 450 degrees. There's room for a little bit more cheese on here too. 450 degrees. I'm gonna leave that in there for about 15 minutes, but I'm gonna check on it. I'm gonna put it on the bottom rack. Pizzas are traditionally done in pizza ovens, but you can do it at home. Do it on the bottom rack and put it at the highest setting that your oven has. Okay, oh, don't burn my hands, okay. Got my pizza on this cutting board. Check this out, this beautiful, beautiful pizza. I got the chorizo, the artichoke hearts, and the onions. That's all you need. Any three ingredients are gonna work together. Just pick your three favorite. Maybe you still have leftover tofurkey from 2 weeks ago. You can do that. I'm gonna cut into this. And usually I'd use a pizza wheel. That is fine, we don't have one. 2 slices. I usually cut it into 8. And this cutting board, by the way, it's the exact size of the pizza. This is going to be a great slice right here. I just wish I had someone I could share it with. If maybe. Mm-hmm. Oh, there it is.
I come. Oh, what do you think? Looks really good. Ooh, mamma mia.
9 out of 10, known as agreed. This is a good pizza. So you can try this at home. Thank you guys so much. Back to you, Rick.
Huh? Oh.
I think he likes it.
Mm. Okay, this year has been terrible. This man has been awesome. I wish my mom could have met him.
Thanks, bro.
Jeanette Van Dyke, my mom, she would like us to celebrate. She was very much a party person, and that's where I get my spirit from. So cheers, Jeanette. And she always loved Elvis and Crown Royal.
less.